Okay, so since we don't have class on Monday, um, I want to get React Router set up on this and just do a very simple intro into React Router. Just so you can, maybe add it to your homework this weekend or, kind of experiment with it. So yeah, as we're seeing, we have a single page application, but we might want to go to different pages as far as like the user is concerned. We might want a facts page, we might want a users page, we might want to go to a specific fact page. We just might want to go to like a new fact page that is just a form. But behind the scenes, it's still only one page. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this library called React Router to kind of simulate like we actually have different pages and routes, which we don't, but it's going to make it look like that. So out in Slack, I threw out a Trello card to kind of get this a basic setup. Now for these like common tasks, these Trello cards, if you're using mine like and they don't work, that's like on you. I really want you to be writing your own and writing them like to make sense to you. If you're just like getting in the habit of copy and pasting mine, what are you going to do when something breaks? I definitely want, you can use them as references and like you can even like copy and paste them into like your own Trello card, but just I want you to kind of understand, what's going on with them. But let's get this set up, React Router. And another thing that we're going to, like, you're going to need to start getting good at is actually going to like that library, like their page, and looking at their documentation. React Router is something we could spend like weeks on. And there's going to be things that like specific things with like that you'll want to do that we just don't talk about. So you'll need to get good at like going to their documentation and trying to figure out how to do it. It's a lot. There's a lot of these packages that are like they're really functional. They give you a lot of functionality, and there's no way you could become like an expert on them. Like you slowly get good at React Router just because you'll probably, if you're doing React, you'll probably use React Router. So over months, you'll start to learn, like use it more and learn it better. So let me show you what I mean by like the documentation. So just throw this. So here's my Trello card. This is like the basic use of it, but here there's like a link to the actual React Router guides. And there's just tons of like demos, there's code, there's all of this stuff. So a lot of functionalities. We're going to keep it really simple though. But I just want to start like as we get like especially more towards like your portfolio project, like you're probably going to be using a library we've never even talked about. And you're going to be the ones who have to go in and like figure out how it works. And the libraries are nice because at your job you'll like someone will give you a task like, oh, build a table that like I can like sort it and I can filter it. It's not like you're going to go build this like React component table that does all that. You might go like see if you can go find a table that someone else built that has all that functionality done. And you just need to go figure out how to use that package or that library. Sweet. So here's that. And yeah, let's get this set up. Just following kind of this. So what I want to do is I want to add this library. So yarn add React Router DOM. Now see, there's nothing here about like, hey, you need to be CD'd into your client directory and run it there. It's like, I don't know if you're in a Rails app. Like this is assuming you know that you need to run this in your JavaScript file. or in your JavaScript file. So in our client directory, we're going to want to do a yarn add React router DOM. Cool. So that's set up. The next thing we want to do is go to our index.js and get it set up there. So what I need to do is I'm going to import what's called the browser router from React Router DOM, and then I'm going to wrap my app in front of this. And this is actually, see, this is already browser router. This is already incorrect. I'm going to need to fix that. Okay. I'll fix that in 1 second, but let's go to our code and do that. So VS Code, go to our index.js. See, this is where we render our app. This is where we actually, this is like where we go to the document, which is our HTML page, and render, like kind of hook everything up. So this is like the highest level of our React app. So I'm going to grab that browser router. I need to import this too. Import browser router from React Router DOM. Sorry, yeah, there was this typo in here. This is document. So now our browser, this browser router component, it's just, this browser router is just, it's like a React component that they're defining, is going to wrap our whole app. And yeah, this React DOM render, just as a side note, we did briefly talk about this React DOM render in our index.js. This is where we actually, go into the DOM and render our React, like go hook it up to the actual HTML. So our single page right here. Cool. So that's all we need to do to get this set up in our index.js. Why do I have so many changes? I don't think, okay, I think VS Code's kind of screwing up because I committed those. Anyway, so our index.js is good to go. The next thing we want to do, now this is just like, see, this is where it's kind of like, I'm kind of throw out like generic examples. Like I'm importing things from components things. Well, I don't know if you have a components folder. I don't know if you have a things component. Just trying to be generic. So let's just do the, like, kind of take this example, but we're kind of going to make it work for our own use case. So in my app, it looks like I can like maybe have like a navbar. Maybe I have a navbar component, maybe I don't. But let's go ahead and make a navbar component, and then we'll fill it, because that, I think that I want this to be part of it. But I also have like this import switch and route for React Router DOM. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and then we can kind of talk about what's going on. So let's first, in our components, let's do a new file. And let's just call this navbar. And this is just going to be a simple component for now. Export const navbar. oh, sorry, export default. I always do that. Export default navbar. So just nav. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're going to change this, but. So then in our app.js, let's go ahead, instead of like having this navbar here, let's just go ahead and import that navbar. Let's auto import that. And then, yeah, I'm going to import the switch component and the route from React Router DOM. I'm going to throw this all in a switch component. So think about it this way, all of my, so I might want something like a navbar that is included in all of my pages. So I don't put the navbar in the switch because I want the navbar in every page. But let's also create another component. Let's call this home.js. And I'm just going to copy what I have in my navbar because I just kind of want some more components. Say we have a home page here. So I have my navbar. I'm going to want my navbar to be on like visible everywhere. But then maybe I want to have like a facts page that's only shows the facts, and then I want a home page that's only the home. Like I don't want these two together. I want them to be two separate pages. So what I can start doing is I can start using this route component from React Router DOM. So what I need to do is I need to define the path, and I'm going to use this exact because this is going to match it exactly. And then I got to give it a component to render. In the Trello, well, we'll do that example later, but for this, let's just say home. And then I'm going to do a self-closing tag. And then I can say, hey, if you go to facts, then render the fact component. So facts. And then I need to import home. I didn't import home. So make sure you're importing the facts, the navbar, and the home. So let's just see what this looks like. So if I go to localhost 3000, I get an error. So here's my expected string, got built-in components, check my render method of app. Let's see, it's giving me some, this one can kind of be a little harder. It's not necessarily always right, but saying, hey, maybe I forgot to export something in one of my files. I did. Some things you can try to do is like, if you're really confused about where it might be, is just comment stuff out. Like, I'm going to comment out my facts import and my where I'm using it. Refresh it. Still broken. Comment this out. Maybe my home is broken. If you can get it to a work, if you can like comment code out and get it working, then that might help. But
I think you're importing React DOM instead of React Router DOM.
Yep, there it is. So yeah, if I would see that that's not breaking it, but yeah, what Alan just said, like React DOM. I'm importing the wrong stuff. So if I then like commented out this, now it's working. So that can be another good way to debug if you can't find, because this would have been, that might have been like a hard error to find. But if you can like slowly start to comment out some code, get it to a working state, well, then I'd be like, well, for some reason, when I do those three things, it breaks. Yeah, and then that would at least lead me, like it like kind of narrows it down. And then yeah, I spelled this wrong. React router DOM. So now we can comment the rest of this stuff back and see if it works. There. So here we go. Now we have the home page here. We don't have the facts page. We still have the navbar. We have the footer, and then we have the home page. If I go to localhost 3000/facts, now I go to the facts. Now this is not doing this is not doing anything with your server. This is just all on the front end. So it's not doing like a GET request to your Rails to facts. This is all just localhost 3000. It's all React Router is doing this for us. It's very different than if I go to localhost 3001 API/facts. So this is another like part of like, if you can like remember this, like, and since we have this convention, all of our actual API calls are going to start with API. Like those are going to be the path. If it's like API/, well, I know I'm like going to my Rails app. If it's like a path like this, / or /facts, well, that's going to be a React Router thing. And that's only going to be on the front end. So I don't want to have to, in my React app, I don't want to have to go in and like type facts and \. This is kind of why we're creating this navbar. So let's go finish our navbar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I'm not auto porting it, the link. Sometimes it doesn't auto import it if you haven't done it yet. So let's import link from React Router DOM. And this has a to prop. And so this you want to match the path in your route in your app.js. So this is going to take me to, localhost 3000 /, so that should say like home. And then I can also do like a, I don't think I really need this in a paragraph tag. Let's just keep this simple. So I can do a link to facts. And I'm going to have that match the path in my app.js, which is facts. Refresh, can go to home, that changes that, and then facts. Notice my tab up here, it's not reloading. There's no reloading going on. It's just toggling between these two components. But we get like, it's a really nice UX because this is really quick, because it's not like getting a whole page, it's just going right there. And my navbar is on all these pages because in my app.js, I'm not rendering this in this switch. So it's like kind of outside of these routes.
Is it the switch function that makes it so fast? Is that what that is?
No, it's because this is just, I mean, we could have done this with like use state. I mean, we could have created, we don't need React router. We could have done like a if show home, return our home component. Else, do our facts. It's fast because there's no, like, we're not actually, there's kind of like conditionally rendering stuff. Like it's already been loaded. And then our navbar could like toggle this show home Boolean. But why would we want to rebuild that when React Router has done it? And they've done a lot more functionality, because stuff like that we get, like I can actually hit this back button now and forward. So it can like keep track of like my history, even though this is like a single page application. So that would be pretty hard to implement, like this back and forward feature, if we were just using like state and conditionally rendering stuff. So that's like, I think for now, that's maybe we'll do a little more with React Router later today, but that's like the basic of getting it set up. It's pretty like, as far as like this basic level, it's pretty straightforward. We just need to wrap our app with this browser router. And then in our app.js, we just create some routes, give them some names for the paths, and then tell them what component to hit if that matches. So let's say someone comes in here and they do localhost 3000s, and they come in and they type something weird. So that's not going to match any of our paths, so we just render the navbar. I could maybe come in here and do like a just default one at the very bottom, and give it a component. So a component is just a function that returns Java's like JSX, right? So I could just write a React component right here. So if I don't match any of the paths, then I'm just going to render this component, which is just my function, just doesn't have a name, not found. So there, if it doesn't match, I could have like a not found. It's not actually going to a server and like the server saying 404. I'm just kind of, saying, hey, you tried to go to a URL that I don't have a route defined for on my React side of things.
Can you go back to the navbar page real quick?
Yep. And let me Slack these out. So I'm going to Slack out the navbar. And I'll also Slack out app.js. Okay. And then I'll also, home is not defined. What? Did I delete home? Oh, I haven't refreshed this, I don't think.
Did you put them in the wrong Slack? I don't see it.
No. They're there, right? Yeah, they should be there. You follow 21.
Oh, never mind. Normally it pasted on the bottom, but for some reason to the top.
Sweet. Yeah, let me commit this. This would be a good time to commit, since I did, a good chunk of work. That's all like wrapped around a task. So, React router setup. questions on that? So let's go back to the facts page and start working on this. But here's something that's interesting. Notice how I'm logging. When I load my data, I'm logging it. So if I go to home, so now I'm on my homes page. If I go to my facts page, that use effect is called. You don't have to do this, but I just want to show this. In this use effect, this use effect can return a function. This is little words. That's going to get called when it unmounts. So my use effect takes a function that can return a function. And this function gets called when it unmounts. I just want to show this log and to show that with React Router, when we're changing components, this one's actually unmounting. So I can go to homes, see now that unmounts, and I could say like X component. Unmounting. And then here I could say like that component mounting. So I go to my facts, it's mounting, we do the axios call. If I go to my homes, it unmounts. So it unmounts from the DOM. So this might be like motivation to like maybe later in the future, well, like every time I go to this page, it's like getting the data. Maybe I want to only do that once, but for now, this is fine. This is more a lesson in the use effect. Is that making more sense what that's doing? How it's calling, it's something we can call a function when this thing mounts to the DOM. And now we also see that, hey, we can call a function when it unmounts from the DOM. You know, maybe we have like, we haven't really talked about this, but maybe we have like event listeners or like timers we want to remove or stop. So there could be things we're like doing that like behind the scenes, we want to stop doing them once we unmount. But we're not really gonna probably use this that much in this course. Cool. So now that I have this set up, let's go ahead and actually get the UI set up. So for this, I'm going to need use state because now I have like this fact state in my app. Okay, so const facts set facts equals use state. We set that just to an empty array because that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting this to be an array of data. And then here, I can do the set facts. And you know, we saw here with the facts here, res.data, that's what it is. I'm going to leave these here for reference, but I'm going to comment them out just so we don't like get our server all our whatever the console. It's right, the word's right there. I couldn't think of it. We don't like get my console all messed up with these logs. Sometimes you can like you create too many log messages, it can kind of be hard to like find the thing you're actually looking for. So I'm going to, you know, comment out these as well. Actually, let's just for now, let's maybe leave them because it might show what's happening. Okay, so I set my facts. I can come here. I can also utilize my components tool because I don't have this set up in my UI, but maybe I want to see in my setting my state. Now this gets a little more messy here just because of all the stuff React Router is doing. So now we're getting like this pretty nested like stuff, but here's my app. So it's wrapping it in like this React Router stuff. There's my app. There's my navbar. There's the switch. See, there's a lot going on there. And then finally, there's my facts. So you notice I'm actually getting some props. Well, I didn't like pass this component any props. But since in my app.js, I'm rendering this in a route component, React Router is going to give me these props. So I get like these, I have like a history prop, I have a location prop, I have a match prop. And these are things we can use to like navigate and do stuff. But we don't really need to pay attention to those right now. Really what I care about is my state. And there it is. I have the things, so it's working. My state is set up. I can come to my facts.js. So now I just need like a, render facts function to maybe do this for me. Let's render facts. Let's just go ahead and return facts.map. Go through each fact, and actually for this, let's be organized with this and create a fact component. So let's give it a key. That's going to be the fact.id, and then let's pass down all the props, because this F right here, that's going to be a fact. And I know a fact is going to be an object with like ID, stars, all that other stuff. So I can just pass that down in this shorthand. So yeah. Now here we go. Nicer errors. Line 30, fact is not defined. Obviously that's not defined. We haven't created that. Let's go ahead and create that. And yeah, with this tool, like what does I can look at my state and I can see all the keys on my fact. So I could like copy this, because if I can't remember, this is just matching those columns in my database. So when I go to create a fact, since I'm spreading out over here, this ... f, well, I know my fact's going to get an ID prop, a text prop, a stars prop, source, and username prop. I can ignore this stuff. So let's do this. Import React from React const fact. I get the structure right here, which I think I will. This will be cleaner, so I have an ID. I have the worst memory. Text, stars, text, stars, and username. Is that it? And source. Let's do our text. Let's just try out our text first, and we can maybe work on this a little more, but export default fact. Also, you're going to get errors here, but those are going to just pop up in your browser too. But let's refresh that. Okay, so I have an error getting my facts. Fact is not defined. Oh, so there we go. Fact is still not defined. Well, here I still need to import it. I created it, but I forgot to import it. And there we go. You can go to homes, go to facts, that loads it. Bam. Now we can maybe spend a little time with the UI. Let's just get some practice writing some inline styles. I'm going to create a styles object. This is just a JavaScript object that inside of it is going to have other JavaScript objects, which are going to have kind of our styling. So it's not quite CSS, but it's very similar. So if I want to do some margin, let's just do our basic, like, let's give it some margin, some padding, and a box shadow. Maybe we'll do some stuff with Flexbox. Box shadow. I'll just pick one of these. I'll have to switch it from, the CSS to JavaScript. And then now I have this container, and then I can just throw that here, style equals styles dot container. It's the same thing as me just taking this object and plopping it right there. That's, pretty messy. So I come down here and define this styles object. Then I can keep this a little cleaner. Go back to my app. There we go. Let's see here. Let's just go in and throw all this stuff in here. So we have our stars. We have like a username. We have a source. So, I don't like this shadow. It's not quite my tempo.
There's a movie reference.
Not quite my tempo. Who's seen that movie? What is it? Crash?
Whiplash.
Whiplash. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a hard watch, but it's a good one.
It's like one of my favorite endings ever. I love the ending to that show. I actually watched a little like college humor thing or something, and it was about a guy who just used movie references. So maybe that's why I like subconsciously did that. Anyway. So we have our facts. Let's maybe do a little bit of Flex stuff. Has anyone used Flexbox? Flexbox it's a good way to like organize your content with like CSS. Like, I want things to be on the left or right or above or below. And once again, with this Flexbox, like, use Google as your friend. I can't say how many times I've like this particular one right here. I've referenced this, or I've used this myself so many times. And Flexbox is really nice. If you get to React Native, which we'll do a little, but if you want to like align stuff in CSS, there's a lot of ways. But with React Native, it actually is based off of Flexbox. So it's like, if you want to like align stuff, you do that. So it's just stuff like this, you know, we can, if we want things to be like all to the like left and like kind of squished up, or we want space between, you know, it kind of allows us to do this in a more convenient way. So let's just do a little demo of this. So let's say I want like the text on its own. And let's have this be like an H3. Let's make maybe the text be a little bigger. And maybe I want like the username. I don't know. Maybe I should draw this out first. It's always good. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Actually, let's take a break because it's 10:30. We can take a little break. And then when we get back, we can spend a little time styling this. Any questions though?
Can I just see your facts.js, please?
Yes. And I'll also push this up to GitHub right now. Do you need me to Slack anything out?
No, I just want to see the render facts function really quick.
This one right here.
Perfect, thank you. Just a syntax error.